It is an immense pleasure to welcome an eminent personality of great corporate level, who will be sharing his views and knowledge about finance and corporate world. Please join me in welcoming the dignitary on the dais, Dr. Paritosh Basu. Sir is a full-time senior professor and a chairperson of MBA Law of NMIMS University of School of Business Management and engaged in several research and consulting services. His current areas of research include Industry 4.0, digital transformation, blockchain, and CBDC. He is an academician with a background of 34 years of corporate experience, mainly in finance, strategic planning, and IT transformation functions. His last two corporate positions were that of the Global Group Controller and CFO of two large MNCs of India. His educational background is quite impressive. He has done MCOM, FCMA, FCA, and awarded a PhD degree by the University of Calcutta in 1999. He is a fellow member of both the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and the Institute of Cost Accountants of India. He is also a life member of Computer Society of India and a member of Mentor Council of the NMIMS Atal Incubation Center. He is an avid manager, trainer, and also a mentor too. He provides consulting services in the areas of strategy, corporate transformation and restructuring, digital transformation, and governance management too. He has conducted a large number of management training and development, and also faculty development programs. Now, I would request Dr. Deepak Vakhrani sir to greet Dr. Paritosh Basu sir with a virtual memento and a big round of applause. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ganpati.
Thank you.
May I have the presentation right, please?
Yes, sir.
So we look forward to what the insights of your emergence of Central Bank Digital. Yes, sir.
I hope I have 45 minutes time.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Please carry.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. You have given me the right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mahima. Sorry.
You can see my PPT.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words. Learned dignitaries in this virtual conference room, senior colleagues from academia, faculty members, learned researchers, my fellow colleagues who will be joining soon for the subsequent sessions, my dear students and participants, Namaskar and good morning. At the very beginning, I would like to pay homage to those lakhs and lakhs of Indians and global citizens who have lost their lives due to COVID-19 pandemic. I'm sure the learning points and application-oriented knowledge that all of us will be gathering from this presentation and from the proceedings of this conference throughout the day and last 2 days will definitely help us to do our bit and contribute for the world to become a much better place to live. I must congratulate and commend the excellent efforts and very good presentations so far of MIT ADT University. But for your untiring efforts, maybe for last 2 months, it would have not been possible to organize such an excellent conference. I feel proud and privileged to share my thoughts on cryptocurrency and digital currency, central bank digital currency also. Let me at the outset accept that I'm not at all a researcher in terms of scientific part of the digital technology. I'm not a digital scientist. I'm on the business part of digital transformation. So far written about 21 papers on digital transformation, which are monthly articles under a column. And that is how I come to this conference and I'm sharing my thoughts. And I'll try to make you know at the very end what is my personal recommendation and thoughts about this, what I visualize. In this presentation, I'll try to give you my own thoughts and various developments in the world around on the matter of cryptocurrency and digital currency. But let me start with the history of any coin and currency and rupee in the world. I will be using a lot of graphics which are freely available in the internet. These are not for any commercial purpose, but for propagation of knowledge. I acknowledge with all humility the contribution of those scholars and artists who have created these graphics. This particular paper of presentation of mine is based on a paper of the same title, which was published by the Institute of Cost Accountants of India under a monthly column called Digital Transformation and presently available in the cyberspace. Let me start my paper with a very simple historical background of what is the evolution of coins and Indian rupee. You may be knowing, soon after human civilization stopped bartering, cowrie shells, which you can see in the first top picture, was a medium of exchange for the world, cowrie shells. This was followed by stone coins or stone pieces. India is one of the earliest claimants of stone coins and metal coins in 6th century BC. When I say 6th century BC, you can jolly well add another 600 to 2021. That means about 2600 years before India started using metal and stone coins. These used to be called as pana or Krishna pana, which used to be launched by and used in the kingdoms of Magadha, Gandhara, Shakya, Shurashena, Panchala, etc. History says that Chinese and Lydian rulers of Middle East, they also used centuries before these kind of coins. In Italy, Rome, the first metal coin was found is 211 BC. You can see these coins here, the bottom circular coins, and the other coins are available here. You can read if you want to. Because of time, I am not explaining those. But the history of the word rupee dates back to 1540 to 1545, when Mughal Badshah Sher Shah Suri ruled us. He first minted the coin, got it minted, which is a gold coin, and it was named as Mohor. He also minted coins from silver, and the Sanskrit name of silver is Rupa. And this particular coin was called as Rupiah. And from there, the word Rupiah born, and with the evolution of English term, it has now become rupee. So that is the history of coins since 2700 years before till today. And I'll take you to now paper currency. My research says that paper currency started somewhere in 1773 to 1775 in India, of course. General Bank of Bihar and Bengal, they issued these paper currencies sometime in those years. It's roughly about 250 years before. But the Paper Currency Act of 1861 of India, this act took out the power or banned the power of general banks to issue paper currency, and the power was given only to a few presidency banks of India. So if you want to know where from the control of central bank came in the currency and monetary matters, it was this act of 1861. Down below what you can see, these three paper currencies, these are the then 1 rupee notes which are cancelled. And these 1 rupee notes used to be denominated with 16 sikkas, small 16 gold sikkas, which subsequently became copper sikkas. I had the benefit of seeing it sometime. This 16 sikkas made it 1 rupee, and that's how it is said, Sholo ana ek taka. 1 rupee is 60 ranas. And in 19th century came the first 100 rupee note and 500 rupee note. And that's the history of currency coins in India. And that's the history of central banks coming into picture for controlling and regulating currency. As of now, students and participants, you may have questions. You can keep typing on your chat box. I will request one of the organizing students to keep them noted in one of their copies, and I will be happy to answer those in course of time. This is the slide which I'm not going to explain in full detail. You must be knowing about it as students of management and researcher, that in anywhere in the world, in any country's sovereign monetary system, there are three kinds of cash. One is the fiat cash or cash currency, which is actually the money which is in the hands of general people. The next is the central bank money. Central bank money is the quantum of money which runs in the system for settlement between banks among themselves and the central bank and other commercial banks. That's the central bank money, which is the money runs in the ecosystem amongst the bankers, and the ledgers for which are maintained by the central bank. The last one, the most common one, is the commercial bank money. This commercial bank money is the money which we get. That means suppose we get salaries from our respective employers. These are not paper currency, but denominated in fiat currency and credited to our account. Or banks give loans to various borrowers, individual and corporate borrowers, and corporate borrowers start doing transactions with this money. This commercial bank money multiplies and the circulation of money take place. But all these three currencies which you are seeing in this presentation, fiat currency, central bank currency, and commercial bank money, all these are under the control, supervision, and monitoring efforts of the Reserve Bank of India. The subsequent part of this presentation will have a lot of issues which I have not captured in this presentation. But the questions which have arisen over the period since about 18th century, whether the central banks anywhere in the world has really been able to discharge their responsibility to the trust and the confidence reposed by citizens of respective countries. Answer seems to be controversial, so I don't want to talk about that. So let's straightaway come to the origin of cryptocurrency. All of us know that in 2008, the subprime loan meltdown came up, and that created a history of gloom, crisis all over the world, which touched upon India. Of course, Indian regulators are quite resilient and the Indian sufferings were much less. So there was a disgruntled group of people whose anguish heightened, whose mindset was that they want to liberate this control, liberate from this control of central banks about their money, their own deposits, their own liquidity. So these IT professionals, immediately after the subprime loan crisis, came out with digital currency. But if you ask me whether digital currency is of 2008, my research says no. It dates back one more decade before. Gentleman called Wei Dai in 1998 came with the concept of B-money. He was a computer professional, and he said that I should be able to circulate money with digital pseudonyms. With digital pseudonyms, I'll be circulating money, and that will be through a digital ledger, which will be open to all. It was essentially a blockchain platform-based digital money. As you may be aware, that blockchain as a concept, technical concept under computer science, was born sometime way back in 1970s, though their research are not completely foolproof. After Wei Dai came Nick Szabo, whatever way you want to pronounce it. In the same year, 1998, he came with a coin called BitGold. His objective was again to break away from traditional banking system and allow people to be controller of their own money in a peer-to-peer network. This peer-to-peer network gave birth to the first cryptocurrency called Bitcoin in 2009, and the famous article, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, which has been read by millions of people all over the world, which is still available in cyberspace. This is called the formal birth of cryptocurrency in the world. And Satoshi Nakamoto, the author of the paper, is called the father of digital currency of the world. But there are enough of controversies in this world, whether Satoshi Nakamoto was a person by himself, or he is a combination. This name represents a combination of people, where Wei Dai and Nick Szabo also is included, or whether Satoshi Nakamoto is a person who legally exists in the under the sun, nobody knows. But what people know, that Bitcoin exists, whose price went up to $30,000 per Bitcoin, and I read that few days before it was $27,000 a Bitcoin. You may be knowing that one of the most important point in terms of Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency is the limitation of the total availability. When the availability is less and limited, but the demand is more, comes the price of the product. That's how Bitcoin is so pricey. What you see in the picture is various forms of digital currencies which are issued by various technology companies, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., etc. But like Lord Sri Krishna had 108 names, cryptocurrency has got at least 8 names. These are known as cryptocurrency, virtual currency, digital token, digital asset, crypto coin, and crypto token. But one need not be surprised where from the word crypto came. The word crypto came from the word which is from blockchain technology. We all know that blockchain technology is a technology where every single transaction is cryptographed and in a chain of block with hashtags, which is immutable. So since these coins are in a cryptographed platform, that's why these are called crypto coins. Since these coins are in a digital platform, these coins are called digital coins. Why these are called peer-to-peer decentralized platform? Because you may be knowing that blockchain technology is nothing but distributed ledger technology. In a distributed ledger technology, everybody can see everybody's account, everybody's ledger, and any transaction which is written cannot be changed, cannot be erased, cannot be reversed. It can only be corrected by another transaction which has to be accepted and circulated between all the participants. So what are the peculiar characteristics which are imparted to a digital token or a cryptocurrency by blockchain technology? Let's understand that. It's a distributed authority structure beyond the realms of any regulation. There is no controller per se. There are only a few miners who keeps track of transaction being approved so that they are not overspent. Then controlled as addition of new digital currency units. Nobody can add it except the original controller. There are miners who will be authenticated every single transaction in a safe, secured, and transparent manner because of distributed technology nodes. Remittance is possible without intermediation. Today, if I want to send a money from to my friend B, then I have to cut a check or go to the website, and then through the intermediation of my bank and his bank, the money will reach him. In a cryptocurrency ledger, no intermediation is necessary. I can straightaway remit the money to my friend's ledger. Of course, there will be some miner who will authenticate whether I have the balance correctly, and that's not any controllership. The purpose of this mining is that no digital coin is double spent. It's a risk-enable safety net, and it is absolutely impossible to counterfeit. Now, such a wonderful technology, such a wonderful facility. My simple point is, anything and everything in this world are subject to major criticism and major praises. Let me quickly talk about these two. Cryptocurrencies face criticism for a number of reasons, including their illegal activities usage and exchange rate volatility. Illegal activities has made cryptocurrency human greed and gluttony for and on behalf of the exchange operators of cryptocurrency has brought bad name to cryptocurrency. Otherwise, cryptocurrency by itself or by design is not prone to illegal activity and volatility. Next comes the praises. They are praised because of portability, divisibility, inflation resistance, and transparency. I'm not sure whether they are inflation resistance. Let's hypothetically assume that in USA there is 10% inflation next year. And so US dollar will be depreciated. If US dollar gets depreciated, will the value of Bitcoin remain at $27,000, or a simple mathematics, it will become $29,700 per Bitcoin? I think inflation will be definitely affecting. But let me tell you, there are controversies and praises. Both are there and major criticisms are there, but controversies are there about everything. Let me have the benefit of sharing with you what Charlie Munger thought about cryptocurrency. You all know who is Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger is the vice president of Berkshire Hathaway. He is the second man of Warren Buffett, and one of the richest person and one of the investors, billionaire investor of the world. He was a lawyer also by himself. He was a real estate attorney. Charlie Munger said, and I quote, "I don't welcome a currency that is so useful to kidnappers and extortionists and so forth." Munger said, "Nor do I like shoveling out a few extra billions and billions of dollars to somebody who just invented a new financial product out of thin air." I think I should say modestly that I think the whole damn development is disgusting and contrary to the interest of civilization. So Charlie Munger, one of the world famous investors of this world, did not like and call it as a disgusting affair. The central bank digital currency. Why I say that central bank digital currency has come up from the phoenix of cryptocurrency. Let me tell you, central bank digital currency by itself is also a cryptocurrency. It is by itself a cryptocurrency also. So IBM came up with a paper in 2019, and I would like to quote this paper about why cryptocurrency in the form of central bank digital currency, an idea born. Advances in financial technology are impelling central banks to react to emergent challenges from the private sector and address weaknesses in payment systems. Policymakers are concerned about the potential loss of monetary control, and there is momentum in their institutions and to examine potential effects of introducing CBDCs. So let me tell you one thing, that when this particular awakening came, when world came to know that Facebook is coming up with Libra, so long people were not that concerned with Bitcoin because it was limited to US investor and it remained within the realms of investment activity. Of course, payments started being made for commercial activities also. But Facebook has a reach all over the world, across all countries. And if Facebook starts a cryptocurrency, it will become a medium of exchange and settlement and store of value, which will take away the control of the bankers. So that became a very, very interesting point for central banks to talk about, because there is a dramatic sense of trust deficiency, which is there. 2008 meltdown brought that sense of trust deficiency. The 2008 told us that the banking regulations and central banks monitoring system, they are not completely efficient and they are not completely taking care of the concern of people. Otherwise, subprime crisis would have not happened. And another thing came with the digital transformation since late 1990s is the fintech. People started using financial technology and digital technology for more settlement of payments without use of fiat currency and banking intermediation. So all these together brought in a sense of urgency amongst all central banks of the world to give birth to a new concept called central bank digital currency. I will urge upon all of you to read my paper. I have written in much bigger way about this. So central bank responded with the digital bank currency as a reality, and CBDC got birth. So coming to the core title of this paper, what is the birthplace of central bank digital currency? I will say the birthplace is the cryptocurrency. Will cryptocurrency get down to ashes like the bird phoenix? I really don't know. I have certain thoughts which I'll share with you within a few minutes. This is the taxonomy of digital currency. This is where cash is. This is where cash is. There is token based. Cash is token based. It is controlled by central bank, but cash is not digital, and it is widely acceptable. Cash is not digital. That's why it is falling into this. Here, this is the area where private cryptocurrencies came. They are widely accessible, they are digital, and they are token based, but they are not controlled by central bank. So that's why it is called private currency or private cryptocurrency. And this is the domain of central bank digital currency, which is central bank reserve, central bank digital tokens for general people, and central bank accounts for general purpose. Let me tell you, China's central bank digital currency pilot testing has got 4 wallets. I'll take another 10 minutes to finish my talk. After that, I will take questions. So China has got 4, in a pilot scale, China has got 4 wallets for 4 different purposes. From this taxonomy, one can make out that central bank digital currency will be a widely accessible, digitally operated, central bank controlled and issued, and token based currency. It will not be cash, and there is a prediction by the UK Treasury today that by 2030, 1/10 of the payments in the world of UK, that is in the kingdom of Britishers, 1/10 will be only transacted by cash, and 90% will be transacted digitally, and that too mostly through cryptocurrency. That is the idea which is now in the minds of Europe. In 2020, Bank of International Settlement, you may be knowing who is this bank. This is the bank which controls international monetary transaction. They came out with this map, and you can make out that the dark magenta color areas, that is these areas, are the areas where retail pilot is ongoing. Pink are the research area where research is going on, retail research. These are the areas where retail pilot has been completed. Is there between pink and the dark brown, and the blue ones where wholesale central bank digital currency projects have been completed. You may be knowing Bahama has already used central bank digital currency, but you can see in Australia, Australia also the retail research is on. But so far as India is concerned, we are still in the process of working. So 36 countries have completed retail and wholesale research on CBDC. 6 countries have already completed the wholesale work. Gulf countries, Hong Kong and East Africa, they have already, wholesale progress has already taken place. These are those countries, the blue ones. And Ecuador, Ukraine, and Uruguay, they have already completed their retail CBDC pilot. China started their CBDC pilot but they had to stop it. What is the status in India? As late as 2019, the National Institute of Smart Governance of India, they issued a paper of national strategy for blockchain. I have written about this paper quite a lot in my different articles. There in that paper, which is a blockchain policy paper, there they talked about the birth of CBDR, Central Bank Digital INR. Central Bank Digital INR was talked about there. And very interestingly, it has not been talked about for transaction. It has been talked about for innovation in areas of digital transformation. You may be knowing very simplistically that blockchain technology will immensely be benefited if the digital currency is used, because if you have to go out of the blockchain platform for settlement of transaction, it will be a huge challenge. And they have said that CBDR will be a nationally permission blockchain technology. That means nobody will be able to issue any cryptocurrency in India other than the nationally permission blockchain. That is, only cryptocurrency will come there is the CBDR. And the main theme of entire point is the trust anchor. So this permission blockchain will be used for CBDR, which will be the trust anchor, one version of truth. And RBI governor, of course, has ruled out the possibility of private cryptocurrencies being used in India as a medium of transaction. This is my second last slide. And after that, I'll close my talk. What is happening all around the world? You read my papers, I have dealt on this quite a lot. In 2020, the first multilateral agency in the form of IMF came out with their working paper, or which is called Legal Aspects of Central Bank Digital Currency. They came out with their working paper for universal debating. Subsequent to that, US CBDC is being now piloted. Accenture and Digital Dollar Foundation of United States have started working on introduction of digital currency. I'll be very happy to share with you this particular slide. Very interestingly, I've written quite a lot about this particular item. Initially, when cryptocurrency came, there were huge difference of opinion between regulators of United States about cryptocurrency. Security Exchange Commission said it's a security. Commodities Future Trading Commission says it's a property, so stamp duty should be given. And like if it is a security, transaction tax should be applicable like in India. Of course, I don't know whether they are still having transaction tax. It's essentially Financial Crime Enforcement Center, that is FinCEN of USA, call it a currency. So 4 regulators named the same cryptocurrency and categorized in 3 different categories. One is security, one is property, and the currency. There is only one regulator who agreed with Security Exchange Commission, Commission for Future Trading in US is Internal Revenue Service. That is Commodities Future Trading Commission and Internal Revenue Services of US agreed that cryptocurrency is a property. So you can jolly well imagine if the mighty giant America, their regulators are divided in the opinion about cryptocurrency, what will other countries of the world do? But this was the position of, in a conference like this in 2018, in the New York City Lawyers Association. And finally, a lot of things have emerged. And US now is ready with a pilot project with Accenture for introducing digital dollars. And whatever I have read about it, I find that these are not allowed as a cryptocurrency per se, but it will be definitely a central bank controlled digital currency. UK has started a new concept. Don't read it at Bitcoin, read it as Britcoin, B-R-I-T. Britcoin, they are introducing, they are already on a pilot for starting cryptocurrency, which is a new currency they are starting. And they said that when they start, they will immediately allow it for household and business usage. And it will simultaneously operate with fiat currency. That is only one country who has talked about it. EC's regulation, that is European Commission, found that across the countries of European conglomerate, there are difference and fragmented opinion about regulatory issues about cryptocurrency. So they have recently launched a paper for very intensive debating before they get into. Meanwhile, they have already started testing out and piloting cryptocurrency of Europe. Maybe it could be digital euro, or European Financial Commission will call it not a CBDC, but Euro CBDC kind of thing. Chinese CBDC, as I was telling you, is having 4 types of wallet, and they had to stop. They started pilot transactions in certain cities, but they have now stopped it. I do not know whether it has been started. Monetary Authority of Singapore, meantime, is doing a very good job. They have already visualized that if CBDC becomes an ultimate reality, then definitely there will be requirement of stacking of multiple CBDCs, because like today, smart, we do international transaction through correspondent banking, Nostro and Vostro banking systems, etc. Going forward, there will be definitely requirement of multiple CBDCs crossing each other in terms of settlement. So they started a pilot platform on multiple CBDC. Dubai has already issued its consultation paper 138 for starting of security crypto tokens. And finally, RBI, that is the most latest, that is day before yesterday's news. RBI has said that several large private banks who are supporting cryptocurrency transaction and investment by Indians abroad, of course, not in India. RBI has started tightening the ropes for those banks, and many of those banks have started severing their relationship. This is the present status of what is there all around the world. I've shared with you, the world is busy in working on CBDC for both retail and wholesale banking purposes. Pilots have been done. Some researches are going on. Projects are going on. A few countries have done wholesale CBDC also. But nowhere there a thought which has come up about country-specific issues. Nobody has shared anything so far. And there is no thought as yet, except for IMF. What would be the scenario if hypothetically 10 years down the line, if each country has a CBDC, central bank digital currency, will countries start working on it? Now, I, as a researcher and a teacher, I have my own thoughts on the subject of CBDC. And I'm very strong about it. I'm working on the domain of digital transformation since 2016. And I first aired my personal view in a conference, similar conference of Delhi University in 2018 about central bank digital currency. And I have added some more thoughts, and I have 5 different points to talk about. And with this, I'll close my presentation. My strong conviction and belief that central bank digital currencies will finally emerge as the winner and exist in this Industry 4.0 era for digital transformation for the new world order post COVID-19 pandemics, as the introducer has formally said. My next prophecy is, as a professor, this is my prophecy, is certain well-regulated private cryptocurrencies like Ethereum, Bitcoin, could be Libra also, may emerge. I underline and bold it out, say may emerge as a digital asset class like mutual fund units. So people will use cryptocurrencies, private cryptocurrencies, as a unit like that of a mutual fund, which is nothing but a digital asset class. Next is cryptocurrencies may be used as a payment in kind. Students of management knows that Companies Act 2013 allows various companies to issue equity shares against transactions, that is payment in kind. It could be possible that if you have an investment in Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, you can buy your assets in exchange of that, which is nothing but equal to equity. My next point, and it is a very important point for students to note, multilateral agencies like IMF, World Bank, Bank of International Settlement, they must promulgate an international code of standards, ICS, separately for CBDC like IFRS and private cryptocurrency. So there has to be two international code of standards. One is for CBDC and one is for cryptocurrencies, which will be issued by private people. And there has to be two international standards like IFRS. And my last thought is that, like, India has converged to the IFRS with India specific changes and additional provisions in IFRS, the world also should do it. World also should do it, and India also should converge to those international code of standards like IFRS for accounting and reporting. So essentially, my conclusion is that CBDC is going to be a reality of the future. CBDC have to be under an international code of standard. Private cryptocurrencies may exist simultaneously as an asset class for investment. It may be used as a payment in kind, like shares are issued for payment in kind, but essentially a common person's trust and common person's money for inclusive smile and inclusive happiness and inclusive banking. There has to be code of standard, and there has to be a convergence of all code of standards to an international code of standards. Thank you very much indeed. Your thoughts and your questions.